Smith rejoins us. James, welcome back. You reckon that's the greatest fight ever?
Well, for me, it's the greatest fight ever, but I think more importantly than that, Marty, it's the most important sporting event ever. Because of what went into Ali Frazier 1, March 8, 1971, the social, the racial, the political divides, not to mention as men and as fighters, these two were the antithesis of each other, diametrically opposed in every way. And I had such an important seat for myself, for my own life and career, being with Ali, spending so much time with him the 2 months prior to that fight, even having my sixth grade teacher, Mr. Wilson, let me go and watch Ali work out and skip school, basically, and write a report, mainly because he wanted to know how his hero, Ali, was going to do. But and then later on in life, Marty, I would end up doing the final interview with Smokin' Joe before he passed away. So in just so many ways, it resonates with me. But I can tell you, I've been a part of a lot of sporting events, watched a lot, just like you have, and been ringside to so many major fights since then. Nothing compares to that night at Madison Square Garden, and it's just because of when it took place and how it took place and where it took place, and most notably the two guys. It was special, man.
There was something legendary about it, wasn't it? It was one of the first ones where society came out, the rock stars, the actors, the politicians and everything. So you're right, it encompassed everything. It encompassed that political thing where Ali, from Cassius Clay to Muhammad Ali, and he called Joe Frazier, what did he call him, an Uncle Tom, didn't he?
It became a situation where the whites were all rooting for Joe Frazier and the blacks were all rooting for Ali, even though Frazier, in more ways than one, was the darker man of the two. It was just amazing the way Ali, set the narrative for the fight. And obviously it's something that Smokin' Joe would take to his grave. He did say some kind things about Ali in this final interview we did, but certainly it affected him. And, you talk about the who's who of Hollywood and everything else that showed up there at Madison Square Garden and on a cold night. Frank Sinatra, there was no bigger celebrity than Frank Sinatra. He took a seat at ringside with a camera, basically running around, the ring as a cameraman for Life or Time, or I forgot which paper it was. There was nothing else like it. I actually was with Ali 9 days before the fight when he came down the Fifth Street gym stairs and gave me a hug and told me, I'm going to whoop Joe Frazier. But another thing that happened after that athletes could learn from is Ali handled it with great humility. The next day from the hospital bed with his jaw swollen, he said, I ain't so pretty no more. And he handled it. And after that fight, so many white people turned around because they all thought he'd handle it in a negative way. But obviously things would change. And a lot of your audience doesn't realize that there was a time when Ali was one of the most hated men in America.
Yeah.
And people don't get that now. And I know it firsthand because my mother was a cocktail waitress and had a picture of me and Ali at her bar. And somebody said, take down a picture of your son with that N-word. And my mother and some others threw him out of the bar. So I know all about how it changed. And we're happy to say, Muhammad is still with us. I got to meet his current wife, Lonnie, last month in Tijuana and show her all the pictures of him and I leading up to that fight. So any sporting event now, pales in comparison to that night in New York, March 8, 1971.
James, glorious. I love listening to you talk about this because, this is, I know we turned the clock back, but I think we have to turn the clock back. I remember talking to you last year about 74 and when we celebrated that anniversary of that Foreman-Ali fight. We have to. I was saying before we came to you that, look, if you love your sport, you owe it to yourself to get on YouTube and look at this. It doesn't get better.
Other, and maybe even better than the sex I've had lately. There's nothing that compares to the first 3 rounds. The first 3 rounds of that fight, and round 11 and round 15 when Smokin' Joe landed that left hook from hell, and Ali was to get up from that. It's amazing. We found out Ali's greatest skill wasn't his speed and his combinations and his reflexes and his dexterity, but his ability to take a punch, which would later on cost him. But there's nothing as frenetic as those 15. Not 12 rounds.
No.
15 rounds, and so it was something else. I know I would always tell David Tua, please watch that fight. Please watch Joe Frazier. You're probably the closest thing to him in terms of a left hook. And, I don't know if David ever watched that fight. Hey, David, if you're listening, if you haven't watched the damn fight, watch Joe Frazier.
I was saying before also, James, that look, because of Ali's height, reach, and everything else, he had to get hit to hit him, didn't he? He had to put himself in that position where he knew he was going to get clubbed because he got to get inside it.
Yeah, well, and Frazier was so magnificent at getting. He told me that a gun or a Sherman tank, nothing. He was like a Sherman tank, and that no gun or anything could have stopped him. He was so. And by the way, neither guy was ever the same after that night. I know they would have 2 more fights, including the Thrill in Manila, which a lot of people say was their greatest. I don't think so, because the pace that they fought at March 8, 1971 was a totally different thing if you really understand the fight game. But yeah, when two athletes do that to themselves and they're simply never the same, they gave it all, and really who got all of it out of it was us. And so, yeah, for kids who haven't seen it, I mean, man, oh man, there's some pretty good footage of it out there. And in fact, the whole fight's out on YouTube. So if you like fighting, if you like sports, and you want to see two guys that are the polar opposite but still brilliant, watch Ali Frazier 1.
It is on our Facebook page, and we thank you so much for your time, James. Beautiful. James Smitty Smith out of Vegas, inthiscorner.com. That's the hashtag. That's his Twitter. That's his website, inthiscorner.com.